right here, what I learned is Gyrodon Meryleoides, which is also known as Boletinellus Meryleoides. That's its current name. And if you look at it, it's definitely a little bit different than your average bolete. One of the things is the stem is often eccentric. It's not in the center. It always grows under ash trees. So for years, mycologists assumed it formed mycorrhiza with ash. Well, ash is a tree that doesn't usually form mycorrhiza with mushrooms. It's a mycorrhizal with microscopic fungi. So what's going on? Took them a while to figure it out. There's an aphid that works on the ash tree, consumes whatever, sap and everything. And when the aphids exude sap, a honeydew, it's actually their poop, but it's sweet substance that comes out of the aphids. And this grows on the honeydew that's excreted by the aphids. And sometimes, and I've been looking and I can't find any, if you find this, and it's a weed, although ash trees are dying across the country, so you may lose your ash trees. But, and they're gone in parts of Michigan and Wisconsin now. But you can look at the bottom of the stem, and you'll see these little black, they look like BBs, and they say I couldn't find any on these. It'll be encrusted in the dirt right around the stem. Those are, I think, aphids and fungal tissue all mixed up together, and they're forming a resting body, like a sclerotium for the mushroom, which helps it to survive conditions, reproduce in conditions that are unfavorable. So it's not a very good edible mushroom in most people's opinion. It is edible. It kind of has a musty, not real pleasant taste. Now, I'm not a chef. Someone may know just the right way to cook this. But so it's kind of an anomaly in the Boletus kingdom. So it's not one that you will associate as being mycorrhizal. And one of the things we say also about boletes is they grow on the ground. Well, they mostly do, but there are some that will crawl up and fruit on a log. And where we saw yellow ones last night that are with the Buckwaldo boletus, which I don't find very much. Those grow on wood and are not mycorrhizal. But these is Boletellus chrysantoroides. Now, I don't use a scope, but if you do, I think the spores on this are striate and definitely different than regular bolete spores. And one of the things that it does, there's none on here now, but it would grow often on logs. You find this one on wood as much as you do on the ground, but it's just using the wood as a place to fruit. It's coming up from the ground. Mycelium is using really wet wood. You'll find the bitter bolete also likes to grow on wood, often on conifer wood, but again, it's still mycorrhizal. It's just using the wood as a higher substrate, and usually the wood is pretty well decayed when you find it. This is Boletellus chrysantoroides, and it's old and rotting right here, of course, because it's been sitting for a day, but it's always this color. It's black, dark brown, and often cracks a little bit like the crabcap bolete. These are not doing that. They're just rotting away. So one of my favorite boletes to find, and it's you saw a big pile of it on one of the slides last night, and it's good to eat, is Boletus hortonii. Now, it's a bolete that's pretty distinctive because it has a wrinkled cap, sometimes to the point it almost looks like a morel. It'll just get so morcelloid on the cap. Has yellow tubes. Doesn't do a dramatic amount of staining, I don't believe. It does stain on the tubes, but not the flesh. It's a good edible. I haven't messed with it much, but it's one sometimes you can find it. When I find it, it's often associated with hickory, but I'm sure it probably goes with oak as well. But every time I found it, there's been a hickory in the vicinity. I won't say it's a common mushroom, but it's not uncommon. And there's another one that we don't have called Boletus subglabripes, which we saw last night, which also looks the same, but does not have the wrinkled cap. It's just the same color stipe, and everything else about it. They're both edible. You heard last night that we now know that there's a poisonous bolete in North America, Boletus urinensis, a seriously poisonous bolete. In general, if you eat a bolete that is toxic or that you can't tolerate, it'll be an unpleasant experience, but not a serious one. A brief illness, and next day you probably feel pretty good. But we don't have Boletus urinensis to show you. I believe we did have it last year, foray, but I don't see that in Ohio, although it's probably there. I think they're so dried up here, it's hard to find something that's a lot of... Yes,